Um, what do you think it is about being online and streaming that makes that community more special than perhaps face to face interactions?
The elimination of social anxiety because you're not actually face to face with someone is
Yep.
probably the biggest thing,
Hmm.
It's
in my
it's
opinion.
pure text. I mean, you
Yeah.
build that relationship off with somebody off of text. You don't have to directly see their face
Yeah.
to have that actual like interaction with them. You just have to read chat. It's a very very different type of communication. My name is Agent Orange. I am a obviously new podcaster. I am a streamer. I've been streaming for about 7 months or so. Uh, I do a lot of just variety streaming. I'm trying to kind of figure out what I want to do with streaming. So feel free, come check out the normal streams. I stream Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 p.m. until about 11:30. And then this podcast is done the last Monday. I always say the first Monday, but the last Monday of every month, from 8 o'clock until about 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And then after that, I usually dive into something like Scrap Mechanic, or now that Win has gotten me into Minecraft, maybe some Minecraft afterwards, something along those lines. So, Stacy, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stacy. I am a licensed um, counselor. However, here in this setting, I'm not your counselor, but I am a counselor who likes to have conversations about things related to mental health. Um, I've been practicing for quite some time. I don't even know how long. Uh, 2014 is when I became licensed, but I have extensive work prior to that. Been in the medical field as a whole over 20 years. So I know a little bit about a lot, I guess is the best way to say it.
All right, Win.
Right on. Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Win. You can catch me. I'm a full-time content creator. So I create content for Twitch and for YouTube. So twitch.tv/ForTheWhyn, just like my name. YouTube.com/Win1983. That's the letters WHYN, numbers 1983. On top of that, I also do podcasts completely unrelated to this one. We talk about board games and that sort of stuff. I pre-COVID, I was angling towards doing professional speaking with regards to mental health advocacy and stuff like that. I like to get and I'm also a pusher of the fine qualities of Minecraft. So, we do what we can.
All right, perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. First, with you being our guest, Win, I want to kind of dive into who you are, what got you started into streaming itself, and then really hear about, I guess, your story of
Sure.
of anxiety, isolation, all of that, like kind of where you struggled. So first, how'd you get into streaming?
I started streaming, my goodness, I don't know. We're coming up on it's over 2 years anyways. Over 2 years ago, because I've been an affiliate for 2 years. So it's been over 2 years that I started streaming, and honestly, like, my origin story was that I have fond memories. I'm old as dirt to begin with compared to a lot of the people who hang out on Twitch, right? Like, I'm 37.
I know the feeling.
And I and I have fond memories of being a pre-teenager, being 12 years old, 11 years old, what have you, even younger than that even, and going to a buddy's house and playing some sort of video game, probably on the 8-bit Nintendo or the 16-bit Super Nintendo or something. And that was our social time, that was our entertainment time, that was everything. And then, as of course as technology grows and evolves and that sort of stuff, it moved away from couch co-op and it moved on to online multiplayer and that sort of stuff, which it just doesn't have the same impact. Like it just doesn't have that same connection of physically sitting on a couch beside your buddy, seeing his reaction when you snooker him in some way in a video game or something like that. And it like I and streaming brings a very small amount of that back. Like, is it the same as the real thing? No, it's not. It's not at all. But it does bring you that half a step closer. And I am a fairly true-blooded extrovert. Like, I love people, I love communicating with people, I love connecting with people, I love talking. And talking to myself and screaming at my TV while playing a video game just doesn't have the same vibe. I want people yelling back.
And they do. They definitely do. Chat controls everything.
It's true.
So where did you... I guess we can just dive right into it. When it comes to your streaming, where do you feel the anxiety? I guess we can start there.
Man, where don't I feel the anxiety? I'm sure that many of you are familiar. I know Stacy will definitely be familiar with the term imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Like imposter syndrome absolutely like attempts to run my life. And I have to fight it, probably 3 times as hard as I fight various enemies in the video games I'm doing. But like you constantly have at least from my experience and my perspective of it, like I'm constantly flip-flopping back and forth between why would I broadcast this? Nobody is going to want to watch this. And how can I get a camera on this? Like it's this constant like metronome of going back and forth between, nobody wants this, nobody's interested, why are you bothering, why are you doing this, your self-worth is minuscule, to holy cow, this is a brilliant idea, like I could get a camera and I could put it on myself and people could watch me paint a wall or something.
Yep.
Like it's it's just one of those things. And it's crazy. Like I said, obviously the anxiety is a lot easier to see in the one side than it is in the other, but it's definitely still there. Another thing that I find that a lot of people, especially when they're first starting out in streaming, a lot of people will leave like their viewer count on and stuff like that, and that is a recipe for sky high anxiety. Because one of the biggest things that I think is important in content creation is whether you're streaming to one person or 1,000 people or 10,000 people, in theory, and the way I see it, you should be doing everything you can to provide the same quality of entertainment, the same level of entertainment. Because if you change how you act based on the number of viewers you have, then what does that show to the viewers who are there when you do only have 1 or 2 or 5 viewers?
Yep.
It's like, whoa, all of a sudden Win got 50 viewers and his energy level shot through the roof and he started doing this and he started doing that. Well, does that mean that my single viewership is not as valuable as 50 viewers and stuff like that? It's crazy.
And it's a great point.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a great point because, sometimes we are, driven by that external stimuli, right? And when we have more viewers and it charges us up, it's just like, they say cheer at a sports game, right? It gets the team going. There also needs to be this internal dialogue that is actually your coach, and that internal dialogue is your self-talk. And like you were saying, Win, so often that self-talk can defeat us, and that imposter syndrome. I know as a therapist, there are times I'm like, people really pay to talk to me? Really? And I never feel like I go to work. I feel like I just get to have really awesome conversations. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're a little sad. Sometimes they're a little bit of both, right? I just feel like I get to hang out with some really neat people, right? And I never feel like I'm at work. And I struggle with imposter syndrome myself, where I'm like, really? But I love it, right? But yeah, that internal dialogue, it can make or break us.
So for anybody who doesn't know what imposter syndrome is, it's in very quick terms, it's basically somebody who, even if you're successful, believes that I don't deserve to be here. Like, why are people paying attention to me? Nobody's going to pay attention to me, kind of like I said. And I mean, there's a lot of big time streamers who have, and they've hit really big. They have tens of thousands of people watching them, and they've expressed Pokimane, prime example. She was talking to, when I'm sure you know, and most people in here probably know, Dr. Mick, or sorry, not Dr. Mick, Dr. K. And they did an interview, and that was one of the things she says, that she deals with imposter syndrome. XQC does the same thing. Everybody deals with it. Once you get to a certain point, everybody starts to feel like, well, you know what? If I don't stream today, no one's going to care. When in fact, you've built this kind of empire. And when you're one of those people that have kind of built this group of people who are not there for the gameplay. I mean, some people might be, but for the most part, people are there for you. They're there for that conversation with you and the rest of the chat. And that's, I think, what a lot of streamers strive for. And then when they don't get that, that's where that anxiety in small streamers starts to build. I mean, even during the podcast here, I don't keep the viewer count up. I refuse to look at it because I don't want that to change. And during my normal streams too, I don't want that to change how I'm interacting with chat. If I don't have people to talk to, fine, I'll talk to myself. You guys know I love talking to myself. But if there's somebody there, cool, I'll have somebody else to interact with.
Absolutely. And
100%.
one more thing that I think is super important, especially within a content creation aspect, and it is the reason why I don't think this happens more is from an anxiety standpoint and from, to a lesser extent, an imposter syndrome standpoint, is that I hear people who come and ask me, I mean, I'm by no means Pokimane, I'm by no means XQC, I'm by no means Ninja or Dr. Disrespect or any of those, and that's fine. I'm quite happy with it. I'm Win. That's who I am. This is my community, right? Like, that's it. But so many people that have come and asked me, hey, can you give me some, can I ask you a question or something like that? Or can you give me some tips on streaming or content creation or growth or anything like that? And one thing that I think that people are doing so backwards is people tell me all the time when I have these casual conversations with people and I ask them, okay, well, give me, tell me about your channel, tell me about what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And people will eventually bring it up in conversation. Well, when I get bigger and my voice means something, then I'm going to do this. Yep. And it is so completely backwards. The fact that you have anybody, and I mean even one person, even one view on your YouTube video, means that you already have impact. Your voice already has meaning because you're already entertaining and impacting somebody's life. Yep. So start damn well acting like it.
Yeah, I deal with that all the time. There's a lot of people that I try to help. I'll go into people's streams who I know. I don't go into a random person and say, hey, you're doing this wrong. But people I'll know, I'll go and I'll hop into their stream. Warrior does the same thing. We'll hop in, we'll have a conversation with them, and we'll give them tips. She's learned a ton from everything over the last 7-8 months that I've been doing this. And I hear that all the time, especially when it comes to rating people. They'll say, oh, well, when I have more viewers, I'll rate. No, you do it now.
No,
because that's how you grow. You become known as somebody. Actually, it was in your Discord that I posted this the other day in the streaming section where I said, I think of it as, because the question came up of does rating actually work? And I said, rating works in a sense of kind of like putting a digital advertisement out there. In digital advertising, we look at it and we say, there is a 2.5 to 3% chance that you're going to get somebody. So out of 100 people, 2 to maybe 3 of them are going to actually interact with your advertisement. Those are the ones that you want. It's a very small percentage, but those are the ones you want, and those are the ones you're going to keep. But your name as a streamer is going to get out there. I've gained a ton of friends. A lot of the friends that I have that are streamers are because I've rated them, even once.
Yep.
You know, I may not have gained anything out of it except for a friendship, but that means everything to me. I don't need to grow my channel just based off of streaming, off of rating. And if you do, then you're doing something wrong. And I think really when it comes down to the anxiety of somebody who's new versus somebody like yourself, you know, it's that, well, I'm only streaming to 1 or 2 people. So why am I going to bother even doing this? Because it doesn't mean anything. But it does.
It does.
It does.
God,
100%.
does it ever.
And it means more. It means more during the times like where I'm at in streaming. Even somebody who isn't affiliate yet. You know, it means more to like around our time versus somebody, you know, that gets bigger.
Yep. You know, they say, and I've read this in a few different places, they say that in order for your name, because basically your channel is your brand, your channel is your company, and you know, you need to understand that you're not straight out of the gates, like unless you have some sort of weird, like grew up, like got brought up in a test tube or something, and you have some sort of shroud or ninja or, you know, XQC level of innate talent when it comes to certain video games, you're not going to come out of the gates with your brand, and you're not going to be the McDonald's, you're not going to be the Subway sandwiches, you're not going to be the big dog at the bowl. You're going to start off as the mom and pop shop who's grinding it out. And in terms of marketing and getting your brand out there and getting your name out there, like, it's said that you need that somebody doesn't even know who you are until they've heard your name from 5 sources. 5 sources before somebody actually has it ingrained in their head. Oh, that's who Wyn is. So when you raid someone, again, typically, like the alert will go off on the screen. That's 1. Your name will pop up in the chat. That's 2. And the streamer will generally acknowledge you. That's 3. So you've done over 50% of the work just by rating, just by going through the process.
Even a host, like 100%. There's people that, you know, that don't stream and will host, and they have 100 followers because people are going and taking a look at what they're doing. And then, you know, hey, maybe this person is going to stream at one point. Well, like you said, you've done the majority of the work just by hosting or just by rating. You know, and
go ahead.
No, go, please.
I was going to say, what do you think it is that drives people to want ratings? Like, what is it that makes people want that?
What made Facebook what it is? You know, like Facebook just went from it, and it's, or Instagram, it's the dopamine hit of watching your likes go up. It's the dopamine hit of having that friend request come in. It's the dopamine hit of like, oh, I got X number of retweets and X number of likes, and you know, that makes me the cool kid or what have you. It's a status thing.
Absolutely. Or Randy, what do you think?
Or, you know, I'm 100% with Wyn on this. It also adds the, you know, I'm now relevant. As somebody who's a streamer, it's now even 1 follower, 1 subscriber, 1 something, adding that 1 extra person to your list is now, well, I actually mean something to this community. You know, and then of course, I mean, unfortunately, you end up getting into a situation where somebody doesn't get a follower for 3-4 days or 3-4 streams, and then that kind of subsides. But then they get a follower again, and it's that rush of, oh, cool, I'm now relevant again. You know, and unfortunately, that type of up and down tends to, especially, and kind of to your point, Wyn, earlier about looking at the numbers, it's very dangerous to look at the numbers. I look at my numbers all the time, but that's from a very different analytical standpoint. And I think there's a lot of people out there that look at it from an analytical standpoint, but it's I get trapped into that too of, well, crap, I haven't gotten a follower in 5 streams. Am I doing something wrong? And really, in the end, it's not about doing something wrong. You just haven't hit the right market, or you haven't done this, or you haven't done that. And sometimes it's not things you can control.
You know how
Hmm.
brutal it is when you start out streaming and something like that? And I fell into this trap. I fell into this trap for a year and a half. Okay.
Yep.
I fell into the trap of being like, I'm going to try to create content that will appeal to everyone. I want every single individual person who like clicks through to twitch.tv/ForTheWhyn. I want those people to come in and be like, oh, hey, you know what? I really jive with this. I really enjoy what I'm watching. I'm going to click that follow button. I'm going to consider subscribing or whatever, what have you. And like, it is so completely mind-boggling that when you finally realize that if you put all of your energy into trying to appeal to everybody, in actuality, you're going to appeal to nobody.
To nobody. Yep. Exactly.
Because you don't have a niche, you don't have a platform. You're like, oh well, I'm a little bit Fortnite, and I'm a little bit Minecraft, and I'm a little bit I don't know, like weird retro puzzle games that nobody's ever heard of. And and then the people who are watching you are like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like there's
Yep.
like, now I'm confused.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's interesting you say that because I remember going through graduate school and everybody knew what they wanted to do when I want to be this type of counselor and specialize in this or that. And I went through and, one of my main focuses was grief and loss and still today is, but I didn't know what on a big scale I was going to do. And whenever we went around the room and we all introduced ourselves, I would come back saying, I don't know what I'm going to specialize in. I'm going to let it pick me. And the class would kind of just stare at me and I'm like, I don't know what I'm good at yet.
Yep.
I'm going to just kind of go out there, wing it, fake it till I make it and figure it out. And
Yep.
I ended up in a field I never even knew existed.
Yeah.
Right. One of my specializations with the psych evals I do, I never even knew it existed. I mean, I knew it existed, but I didn't know. And I did hold true to my grief and loss, but um, it was incredible just kind of opening up my mind and coming into a space where I could have a little bit of everything and see just where my gift landed me. And I think that's so important when it comes to streaming and podcasts and whatnot, is just to open your mind and say, hey, maybe what I enjoy isn't my gift, but there's a gift, for me to share with others.
Yep.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and that's the thing, like, kind of to my point earlier, if you, Stacey, if you were to come out of the gate saying, this is what I want to do, I'm going to jump completely into this, you may end up at a certain point where you either decide to change what you're doing because you're no longer happy, or you just get stuck in it and you end up continuing to not be happy. I mean, you
Absolutely.
could make it and, go 15, 20, 30, 40 years in the industry and be perfectly fine. But there's that chance. So by
Absolutely.
putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I don't know what I want, which is kind of the point I'm at right now, of saying I don't know what I want, so let me figure it out. As I'm going, let me figure it out. And I think for me, that helps keep the anxiety down a little bit, because I'm doing this for myself. And I'm not doing this to please the masses, or to please my friends. It it took certain things to fall into place for me to be able to figure out, hey, I want to try this podcasting thing. It took meeting certain people, having, staying to a certain regimen of only 3 times a week. And then, the other 2 nights, I haven't been able to do it recently, but the other 2 nights a week, I'm watching other people's streams and interacting with people. And during the day, I'm interacting with people, making friends. That's how you build a community.
Network, my friend, network. Yep. And networking is not follow for follow. Like, there are so many. I got into a huge argument with a member of my community actually about this. Again, this person was a smaller streamer just coming up, trying to find his way, and he found himself in one of those like I can't even remember what it's called now, but there's a lot of groups out there that are like, you know, you follow all these people and they'll all follow you, and then there's like it's a whole weird, it's like the old pyramid schemes, even though I mean pyramid schemes are still very much a thing, but it's the same kind of thing, right? Like nobody benefits from this, because like sure, you're gonna see your numbers inflate, you're gonna see yourself going from maybe 1, 2, or 3 viewers, like CCV kind of thing, and you'll see it shoot up to 30 or 40 or whatever the hell it happens to be. But you're not actually streaming to anyone. You're streaming to a bunch of people who have your stream open in a window, muted, kicked off to the side of their computer. They're not engaging with you. You're not you're not interacting with people. You're not growing a community with anyone. You're not building relationships with anyone. Man, I'll tell you what, like some of the best relationships, believe it or not, like some of the best relationships that I've found in the last little bit have actually come from a really crappy situation that happened within my channel, you know, where I got to meet people like Mr. and Mrs. Agent Orange, you know, and I got to meet people like this lovely lady that I know that streams it's roast beef, right? Like I got to meet these people, but I never would have had an opportunity to meet and interact with these people in such a way had it not been for a really, really negative situation.
Yep. And it's really easy to take that negative situation and say, this is absolutely horrible, and this is going to completely destroy me, you know, emotionally. But you were able to say, hey, you know what? It's a crap situation, but let's make something out of it. And you got a lot out of it, actually.
I did, yeah. Yeah, and again, it's kind of about like understanding that that like Twitch is a marathon, you know? Like there are probably, give or take, I was looking at this not too long ago, but there are approximately about 4.5 million individual accounts that are active streaming accounts. So about 4.5 million. Out of that, there's approximately 300 to 350,000 partners. So when you look at that in terms of ratio, like that's not really that much, you know, like, so when everyone comes on and they come onto Twitch and they start telling themselves, well, I'm going to get onto Twitch, I'm going to start streaming, I'm going to hit partner in like 3 months, and I'm going to make $1 million within a year, blah, blah, blah. No,
And
I hate to break it to you, but that's not going to happen.
And part of the problem with that is that they see all these big time streamers and they say, well, this is easy to do, but not realizing that those streamers have been doing it for, like, Ninja has been streaming for 10 years. He was on Justin.tv.
Yeah.
I mean, these
guys paid their dues.
Yeah, they built their empire over years under a very different market than it is now. It's very difficult to grow now. And you basically have to have a PhD in streaming in order to grow. And that's how it feels sometimes.
It's hard work, like, and it's not something that you can slack off with. It's not something that you can, you know, like just because, like, for myself, for example, I'm live 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday, but Monday, Tuesday, like today, for example, I was networking with other people, I was answering emails, I was doing back end stuff, I was building new graphics, I was editing YouTube videos, like it's a
full-time
7-day-a-week job.
Yep.
If you want to try to quote unquote make it.
Yep. And like you said, you have to pay your dues. And you can't you can't just come in and stream 5 days a week or increase how much you're streaming without putting that extra work into it. You can't do that. Because if you try to rely just on Twitch as an income, you're going to fail. Because Twitch is not a primary income source for most people. I would say there's maybe 20 people that it probably can become a primary income source. YouTube, all those others become that additional source that helps push things along.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's see. So when you started streaming, um, you you dealt a lot with anxiety, correct?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
can you kind of explain a little bit like what your struggles were that kind of
Um,
helped just build that anxiety in you?
yeah, the very first time I went to go live on Twitch, like I had my hand on the mouse, like had OBS open in front of me. I'm like moving the mouse cursor towards that start streaming button, and my hand is shaking. I'm sweating. I'm nauseous. And it's so much of it is like entering the unknown. It's so much of it is again the validation thing of like, am I going to click this link, like am I going to go live, are people going to come in there and they're just going to be like, man, why are you even doing this, you suck, your sound's terrible, your audio's your video's terrible, your gameplay is really terrible,
Mm-hmm.
like like why, because I had it in my head that people who came onto Twitch to see that we're going to watch me or a streamer on Twitch, we're expecting to see XYZ things. And like there was no wiggle room outside of that. And that's completely not the case. But try try telling 2.5 year ago when that, and he would argue you tooth and nail.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Well, and I'll be honest, even tonight, with this only being our second episode, I was very nervous and anxious just hitting that start button.
Mm-hmm.
And it's normal on a normal stream. It's not something that I really deal with that much anymore. So it was very unknown territory for me to actually say, okay, are we actually doing this? Because this is the first time. I mean, we've discussed this. I mean, last week, very nervous. This time,
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and I say, okay, well, we have a guest in here to build a conversation about these types of things, and here I am actually experiencing exactly what we're talking about. It's for me, it's a very weird thing because I deal a lot with depression and
Mm-hmm.
things in that realm. I don't typically, at least when it comes to streaming, I don't typically deal a lot with anxiety, because I've had to force myself to become comfortable with kind of getting used to talking to people and that. And I don't want to necessarily say it, but COVID has actually helped with that because I can do the face-to-face conversations, but at least for my job, I have to get on video with random people all the time.
Mhm.
So to have those conversations and kind of build that face-to-face without actually being face-to-face is something that I've had to get used to. But tonight was very odd territory for me.
COVID
I look
has,
forward to it.
Oh
yeah,
yeah. I know you
hell
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
I love new things. I
Mhm.
I embrace new things with, I don't know, just joy and excitement. Sure, I get nervous, um, but it's an excited nervous,
Yeah.
right? Um, I don't know, and especially in this platform, for some, I mean, I'm good face to face with people too, and if anything, I would run more on the anxiety end of things, than a depression side, if
Mhm.
anything, um, but yeah, I embrace new challenges. If something's the same for too long, I get bored and I stir things up,
Yep.
There
right?
you go. Hell
And,
yeah.
and and the funny thing is, I think you'd be a perfect streamer too, because
Oh,
when I don't know if you're like this, but I could play a game for like 3 weeks straight in every single stream, and then all of a sudden I say, I want to try something new, and I want to
Yeah.
just and that's a scary thing too. Is okay, well now I'm going to try something new, and I built this, even if it's small community, I built this little community, people that like watch me play this game, and now all of a sudden I'm going to try something new, and then that stream I get nobody.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like if you move from a category that like has a decent viewership, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
oversaturated, and you kind of get in there and you're like, oh, I'm seeing some growth, I'm seeing some traction in this category, but then you burn out on the game or something like that. Um, and so you're like, well, like something's got to give, right? Like I'm so happy and I'm so excited and I'm
Yep.
so like euphoric over like seeing this traction that I'm getting and seeing this growth that I'm getting. But the game makes me want to tear my hair out because I'm just not
Yep.
feeling it. You know, something's got to give, and
Yep.
like it's not good either way, especially if you move into something else and nobody knows you in that new category, and maybe that category is either super saturated or doesn't have, or it's like a dying or not popular category right
Yep.
now. Sometimes you just got to do it though, man. Sometimes you got to like I said, it's one thing that I've learned, and it's one thing that I constantly bring up, at least within my own community, is I say, hey, you know what? Like one day here coming up on XYZ day, we're gonna do something that's for me.
Yep.
And this is a guilty pleasure day.
Yep.
And you know what? The game is gonna be probably real crap.
Yep.
Like it's probably gonna be terrible. And we're probably not gonna get any like new people in, but you know what? I need to do this for myself, and it's going to be my own like greedy, I need this, just come along with me. Like I promise we'll make it entertaining somehow, even if it's just like the whole lot of you like slinging mud at me for picking such a terrible game to play.
Win, what's wrong with you?
know? Yeah, like I promise we'll make this thing fun somehow. I don't
Yep.
know what that's going to look like, but it's sometimes you just need that, because the last thing you want to do is hammer your head up against a wall with some game that you're not enjoying, because it's going to superfluously inflate your numbers. But then people are not dumb on Twitch, as much as I would love to say contrary sometimes. But people are not dumb, and they can see through.
Yep.
They can see through and be like, hey, you know what? This guy's really having a shit time. Like,
Yeah.
this is not enjoyable.
Yep.
I'm
And
curious. What do you guys think? I'm sorry, Randy, to rob
no,
you
please.
of this. What do you guys?
Always.
Mine. No. What do you think it is about being online and streaming that makes that community more special than perhaps face-to-face interactions?
The elimination of social anxiety, because you're not actually face to face with someone, is
Yep.
probably the biggest thing,
It's
in my opinion.
It's pure text. I mean, you
Yeah.
build that relationship off with somebody off of text. You don't have to directly see their face to to have that actual like interaction with them. You just have to read chat. It's a very, very different type of communication.
So then tell me, because what I'm hearing you say is, it's better because I don't have to see their nonverbals, right? And for someone like me, I'm incredibly expressive. You
Mhm.
know what I'm thinking. You know that if you say something that intrigues me, I usually will raise an eyebrow and I lean in,
Yep.
right? So right, and you miss that when it's text. So let me ask you this: when you're reading text, when you're reading comments, are you hearing it in your own voice? Are you hearing it in a voice that you think that person might sound like?
For
Yes.
yeah, for me, I think it depends. That's a really good question, because I think for me it depends on who the person is. Because if I have somebody that I've built some kind of relationship with in my channel, then I might read a snarky comment as a joke, versus somebody who's brand new. Then I'm going to read it in how I emotionally at that moment want to read it. If I'm having a really bad day, I'm not going to take somebody's shit. Unless it's somebody who's actually, a regular in my channel.
Well, and that's a problem in itself, right? Is that like, it's the problem with texting versus phone calls versus face-to-face
Yep.
conversations, is you don't get context as easily, you don't get tone as easily, that sort of stuff. But it definitely helps. Like I don't have any numbers on this, I'm just talking out of my what, but like I feel that a lot of the people that I have interacted with on Twitch anyways, a lot of them fall more to the introverted side, the
Yep.
more the more, socially awkward, socially anxious side. And that's totally cool. And I love that because, like, I am very much to the other side where I'm one of those guys that like goes and gets out into a social situation. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, what's going on? Blah, 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 you know? And, and like, for me to actually approach some of these people in a face-to-face situation would be so completely overbearing for them. But because they are allowed to be within their own safe place, would be their home or the library or their place of work or school or something like that, something that they're very comfortable with, and yet still be able to develop these relationships and communicate with each other. And like, you already have, generally speaking, you already have a common bond, which is video games. And go even deeper, maybe this particular video game that you're playing or this style or something like that, right? Like, these people already come from a more comfortable space where they're like, okay, I already am invested in this, I'm already connected with this. So that has already broken down that first layer of, holy shit, I'm meeting somebody that I don't know, or I'm interacting with somebody that I don't know, and this is the most terrifying thing in the world. But then there's all those little cues and all those little things happening in the back of the brain where it's like, wait, I'm in my house.
Yep.
I don't actually have to interact with this person. If I'm really uncomfortable, if I'm really not feeling this, if I'm really scared or whatever, I can click the X button, or I can click on a different stream, or I can just go away.
Yep.
Like, I don't have to interact. And I think that that's a big part of the Twitch thing. But for myself, someone who is extroverted, who does like to get out there and be big and loud and talk with my hands, I don't know if you noticed or not, good Lord. But like, I have the ability to do that because I just throw the camera on and I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I'll broadcast to you guys all day long. Like, let's get crazy, let's get wild, let's have some fun. And I'm going to tell you really bad jokes. And like, as soon as I get to know somebody a little bit better, like, I always try to remember one or two little tidbits of information about people that I meet within the channel. Just to like be able to bring it back up in conversation with them later on, like when maybe they think that I've forgotten about them or something like that. And I'll be like, oh, Naughty, for example, you big greasy meatball, because he's an Italian, he's from Italy, or like his parents are from Italy, he's a first generation American, but like it's stuff like that I can then throw back out there just in casual conversation. And it just like, it helps further deepen the relationships and makes people feel more comfortable, in my thoughts.
Absolutely.
Completely agreed. I honestly, I can't really. Yeah, that was very well said, especially throwing Naughty under the bus. It's I think for me, it falls within the same lines, where I want to be able to get to know people, and I want to be able to build that interaction with them. And by getting to know those little things is where you start to really pull people back in.
Mm-hmm. And I caught one comment in here that said, sometimes, and this is true, and I do have my chat up, Randy, so thank you. I can read what people are saying this time.
Good.
And it's not zoomed in. But I caught one comment that says, people aren't authentically themselves always online. Sometimes you get a different person, right?
Yep.
Now, Randy, you have the unique opportunity of knowing me many years.
Is it an opportunity or a?
Do you like how I said it?
Yeah.
I mean, we've known each other a very long time.
Yep.
And even before you and I were friends, we were in similar social settings because of my friendship with your parents. I'm curious, and I'm going to put myself in the spotlight here. In person, via text, and in this setting now, am I the same person? Am I different?
I think you're one of those people who are very authentic, regardless of where you are.
Fair. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And
I was
like
curious.
I will honestly throw myself under the bus. I am very uh, I guess I can't say I'm very different, but I am different online versus in a normal setting. You're a very outgoing extrovert. So you tend to be a little bit more comfortable talking to random people and and just having a conversation like this versus somebody like myself who I would much rather just stay inside and be with my family. I would much rather do that than go out and hang out with other people. Now I will do that, but when it comes to me being online, then I'm much more of an extrovert. I love to talk. You know that. Both of you know that. And it's me having that enjoyment of meeting new people and building that communication skill of talking to people, but there's no chance in hell I could do it outside of streaming because I emotionally can't do it. I can't bring myself to go to up to some random stranger and say, hey, how you doing? I used to be able to, but I think a lot of that when it comes to the anxiety of just doing that, I pull myself back.
I think that's so interesting because like I feel like streaming has helped me reverse that. Like I said, I love to have conversations. I love to get to know people. I love to like interact with new people. But my anxiety side of this, my like social anxiety is the fact that I am criminally terrible at initiating conversation
Yep.
until I started streaming.
Yeah. Yep.
And now I feel so infinitely more confident in just being able to go up and strike up a conversation with somebody that I don't know at all. And I absolutely like streaming has really helped me in that regard.
And I think with that, it's you've been able to take something that is a fault and incorporate a new, I guess you can call it talent, and help build that in. I've done that in other areas. I have not yet done that in an area where, at work, I have no problem doing it, but I'm much better sending an email or, sending a message versus calling somebody directly because it's that vocal portion of it in the real world that still gives me a little bit of extra anxiety that I'm I don't like.
And you're absolutely right, Randy. I will talk to strangers and strangers will talk to me. I think I sometimes wear a light above my head that says, "We'll talk."
Mm-hmm.
I I've been Randy, you've heard many of the stories. I've been shopping and I'll get hugs from people. They'll just
Oh yeah.
want to tell me their story and then I'll get hugs. And I don't care, I'll hug.
Mm-hmm.
And my spouse will although very patient at times, 20 minutes will go by and I'm still just listening, right? And
Yeah.
he'll walk away and he'll start grocery shopping. I'm like, I'll catch up.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I assume that if somebody stops and they want to start talking, that they have something they need to say. And you never know how that one moment can change your own life if we just open our ears and close our mouths and let our minds listen,
Yep.
right, to the words that somebody is saying to us, whether it's in person or online, right? Um, we can learn so much and grow to become better humans to each other, to ourselves, right?
And
That's
I,
my
with
that's my
you,
take.
I think that puts you being a counselor and a therapist as a perfect industry for you to be in because you're willing to just listen to somebody for 20 minutes in a grocery store. Most of us would be very slowly backing away.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny because being a counselor, I think I always knew I'd become one. Of course, I went down every other avenue because I spent 15 years in college dodging the ultimate end, right? Because I wasn't ready for it. And I've always enjoyed it. So for me, it was perfect. And kind of circling back to the imposter syndrome, I couldn't believe that there was a field I could literally just walk into and feel super comfortable because I'd been in medicine. I knew codes already. I knew the ICD-10s, all that stuff. I knew notes. Um, it was really kind of like just slide in. It was great. So yeah, it's an awesome field. but I won't steal the show and talk all about that.
Oh, you're good.
I love
No,
counseling.
please do.
It's a great field, and you know what? I'll say this: some people have very bad experiences in therapy. Randy, you and I have talked about
Mhm.
different experiences people have had, and I'd say, make sure that if you do go into counseling, that you seek out somebody that fits what you're looking for, fits what you need. There's counselors, there's psychologists, there's social workers that are LMSWs, right? And do additional counseling. Psychiatrists, that's a whole different, they're the ones that prescribe medication. They don't really do talk therapy, but the other three we do. And we each have a different school of thought and training, and just knowing what you're looking for and not being afraid to say, hey, that's not what I want. Could we try this or could we try that, right? Because when it comes to that care, that's your world, your life. It should be all about what you need, and finding that resolution and that peace and that happiness, right? So there's my plug for find a good therapist if you need one.
And I know it's hard right now for people to find therapists, especially with COVID. A lot of them are booked up. They have they're
Doing online.
yeah. I know at least from what I've heard, some therapists are and even psychologists and everybody are actually taking on some extra clients because it's easier for them to just one right after the other just kind of get people in versus an in-person conversation. So
100%.
for I know you won't be able to directly say definitively, but do you have any recommendations for anybody who might have problems finding a therapist?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm happy if somebody wanted to reach out to me, and say, "Hey, Stacy, I live in this area. Do you happen to know anyone?" I'm more than happy to try and direct you somewhere. Um, I know that Warrior just posted something. Sorry, work phone's going off. Um, I know Warrior just posted
Mm-hmm.
something about Psychology Today therapist. I was going to mention that. Warrior, if you could also put up goodtherapy.org. It's my cat Harmony making her debut. This is my princess, very much princess. Um, goodtherapy.org is another one, but Psychology Today is kind of like a therapist yellow pages, and it's nationwide. Um, I'm not sure if it extends up to Canada or not, when I know that's
Sorry, Wayne.
Man.
I know.
Done.
Um, that's it. But all across the United States, Psychology Today, again, it's kind of our um, yellow pages. And the really cool thing about Psychology Today, you can specify if you're looking for male or female, if you're looking
Um,
for a certain kind of therapy. Let's say you've been in therapy before and you know that CBT or DBT, throwing out acronyms, right? Or reality therapy. Let's say you know that that worked really well for you in the past. You can actually specifically look for that stuff.
um,
Um, so it's something you can kind of tailor that search, and then you got to read the you know outline, the profile everybody puts up. um, I know where I work, I've helped a lot of our newer therapists. I'm a mentor to some of our newer therapists, and I've helped them create their profiles, and the work I do with them is to really dive in and say, okay, how do you want to help these people, that come to you? What is it you want to offer them, right? And I can't say every therapist puts that kind of effort into it, um, but I know the ones I've worked with, we really take a good strong stand on how can I help. So yeah.
and that's extremely important. Kind of like Madeline just said, therapy is not a one size fits all thing.
Nope.
I've been through a lot of therapists in the past. I mean, to me, a lot is 5, 6 different therapists, and it's either it's somebody that I just didn't connect with, or somebody who moved away, or something. I mean, there is that connection that has to be made with a therapist in order for you to actually be able and feel comfortable enough to dive into the issues that you're having in order to have the therapist kind of walk you through whatever.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I often say, and Randy, you've heard my spiel because I've said it enough times. When I meet somebody, um I'm there to go on that journey with them. I don't lead. I follow. I walk next to you. If you sit down, sit down means we get stuck in a moment. I sit down with you, right? I always like to, I give a picture of a path and trees and benches and, very naturey because that's, I guess, my zen. Um, but I tell everybody, I follow your lead.
Yep.
Take me where you want to go, right? And my role, a good therapist role, is to ask a lot of questions and guide you to find your conclusions, your answers.
Yep.
We're not there to give you advice or give you the answer. That's not helpful.
Yep.
Finding your own answers and your own discoveries. And then another thing too is, as a therapist, a thing we need to do is make sure we're meeting that person exactly where they're at. So if somebody has social anxiety, right? Let's say somebody comes to me and they have social anxiety. My role is to help them adapt. So maybe I just have a general conversation about something, right? Anything that they might be interested in, or hey, if we're lucky enough, there's something we're both interested in. We just
Yep.
have a generalized conversation about it, right? That alone can be therapeutic and things can come up out of that. I've gone on walks with people. I've done walking therapy, done coloring. I play Pokemon Go with somebody. Um,
That's
it
dope.
worked. Yeah.
Hey, if it works, it works,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah. And it was great. They're like, "Hey, would you try this with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool." And we both sit there and play Pokemon Go and have a conversation. And it's fantastic. And I say, whatever it is you need, don't be afraid to ask the person you're working with.
Yep.
Now we do have boundaries and ethics we have to abide by.
Yeah.
So I say
Yeah.
that. um, but no, I mean, don't be afraid to speak out and speak up.
Yep.
It's important.
And if you're not comfortable with a therapist, don't be afraid to say something.
Absolutely.
Even if it means you move on to somebody new. Don't be afraid. You have to be comfortable
Absolutely.
with that person.
I've had conversations with people. I've had patients I've seen for multiple years, and I'll ask, "Are you getting anything out of this? Are we still moving forward, or do you
Yep.
feel we're kind of stale?" And I did have one that they were like, "Yeah, I kind of don't know what else I can get." And I said, "I'll tell you what, are you comfortable trying someone else? Not because this is broken, but I think maybe you need someone else.
Yep.
You need a new, clear, fresh thought, new view." And they went to a colleague of mine, and man, new stuff came up and came out. I don't know because I didn't read the notes, but I know because the person reported back to me, the patient, and I was over the moon for them. I was like, "This is amazing! Wow!" A whole new door opened, and I think that's another really important aspect too, is being comfortable to ask the person you're with
Yep.
for help, or something beyond them. And as a therapist, to other therapists, being comfortable with that too, knowing that maybe we have a limit, right? We're not superheroes. We're just people that want to help people.
So, do you have any, I guess you can call it pre-game or pre-stream rituals that help lower any anxiety that you might have at the beginning of a stream, and even things during a stream that during anxious moments, whether it's something that happens in chat, or like you mentioned, the situation that brought me to your channel.
Mhm.
Do you have anything in either pre-game or during your stream that just kind of helps calm you down?
Like my here comes all right.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Here we go.
How much time you guys got?
Yeah, yeah. No, I'll keep this concise, but like I am, first of all, I'm just going to put it out here right now. I am the worst Canadian ever, in the sense that I don't really like hockey, and I am way more interested in like baseball, like Major League Baseball, NFL football, that sort of stuff, right? And I like, especially when it comes to baseball, because I am a huge, ridiculous, over the top baseball fan. But with that comes like, I mean, it's, whether you want to admit it or not, baseball players are some of the most absurdly superstitious
Oh, for
folk you'll
sure.
ever meet in your life, right?
We
Yeah.
are.
Yes, right? And that is me to a heartbeat. So like when it comes to baseball, like I mean, except for this year, thank you, COVID. Like I have a baseball team that I put together. We're just like it's really beer league, but it's still baseball and it's still fun and it gets me out and it gets me exercising. And you know, if anybody wants to gripe me about it, well, go kick stones. Like this is for me, not for you.
Yeah.
So, but what you know, like when it comes to baseball, like I have a list of superstitions from about like you know here to Florida, and I'm in Canada, guys. I'm in the west part of Canada. Like you know what I mean? Like I am incredibly superstitious when it comes to baseball, and that comes down to like you know the baseball pants and the socks, and you have like you know your lucky bat, and you know you better not touch my glove and all that kind of stuff. I'm the same way with streaming. Like when it comes to streaming, like I basically have a checklist, and like before I go to stream I was like, okay, I have my cup of coffee, yeah, okay, I got my glass of water, yeah, okay, you know, open up these programs in this order, and it has to be in this order for some reason because that's how my brain's wired. Like it's just wired to do it in this order. And you, if you want to call that OCD, I mean sure, call it OCD, call it whatever the hell you want, but that is how I know that I am ready to go live.
Yep.
That is how I know that I am ready to go live. And then as soon as all of those things are done, the last thing on my checklist is to push the go live button on my stream deck, and boom, the timer is off, the music is playing, Bob's your uncle, Sally's your aunt, off we go.
Yep.
You know? And then as for like rituals that I do during the stream, I mean, some of my rituals during the stream are just kind of like it really is just kind of like inside jokes that I have with certain people. Like I can say or do certain things on stream that'll mean nothing to 90% of people, but the 10% that get it, you see the reaction in the chat kind of thing. And I guess it's really those kind of rituals that just kind of help keep me grounded and being like, you know, I know you're there and you know that I'm here and we're connected, even though, you know, like Mr. Orange, for example, you're in Michigan, and you know, so some like Ashley Renee in, you know, in my community, she's in Arizona, and you know, I have people who watch me from Germany and all over Europe and various places all around the world. And it's just like it's those little things that every now and then you throw it out, you know, you throw something out there like Lord, something like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
90% of people, that doesn't mean anything. But the 5% of people that it does mean something to are laughing their asses off right now, sitting in your chat. I guarantee it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it just like and it's those things, and it's those little tiny inside jokes that again don't mean anything to anybody else, but it's just it's such a it's such a comfort. It's such a it's like a hug. It's like a digital hug.
Yep.
And it's just this reminder that like I'm here for you, you're here for me, we're here together, we're having fun. That's all that matters.
Yep.
You know,
that's extremely
and
important to have.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's those little reminders. And it's not much, right? Like it's never much. It's one word. It's Lord. What the hell does Lord mean?
Yeah.
It means whatever you want it to.
Yeah.
Right. Or yikes forever, or you know, little things like that, right? Like it's things like that you know, and seeing the same faces pop up in chat. And we have one person who's in my community that we call Stream Mom, because I mean she's been around the community for like a year and a half, and she's an older lady. She's older than me, and that's as far as I'm going to take it. You never let out a woman's age, but you know, like she is older than I am.
She's 25.
She's 25. That is correct. with a couple anniversaries tacked on. But it's, you know, she comes in and it's not just me, it's the entire community that's like, oh, Stream Mom's here. Oh, this is here. You know, oh, this person's here. Oh, that person's there. And I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. One of the most infinitely fulfilling, incredible, beautiful feelings that you get from streaming has no dollar value attached to it, no dollars, no cents, no anything. The best feeling, two things. The best feelings I have ever had from streaming are watching my community start to interact with each other and develop relationships and friendships with each other when I am not present, and to have them develop their own independent relationships, and just to know that, you know, sure, maybe we all met each other through the community, but I always say this too. This is another thing I always say. It's not my community, because if if the viewers weren't there, if the community, the winner's circle is what we call ourselves, if the winner's circle wasn't there, then I would have no one to stream to, and I probably wouldn't stream. But then they always remind me that if I wasn't here, then they would have nobody to watch, so they wouldn't be here either. So it's a back and forth, right? And it's things like that that are like those two things, right? Like being that reminder of like, I'm here for you and you guys are here for me, and then to watch them cultivate relationships within themselves without me having to be present is two of, honest to God, the most fulfilling things I've ever had in the world. And both of them have cost me nothing and net gained me nothing. Like it's incredible, and I love it, and love it.
Well,
I would agree wholeheartedly. When I a few different of the things I do, when I can put two strangers together, and then those two strangers maybe bring more and more, right? And then they start to just kind of create this friendship, and I become just a participant instead of the leader, right? There is no greater feeling than bringing a group of people together and just watching it be.
Yep. So I want to dive a little bit into our second piece of this entire conversation, the isolation part. And this is an area that really heavily affects a lot of streamers, whether you're big, small. I mean, anxiety is one of those topics that I think every streamer at some point deals with, especially when you first start off. And then even deeper, it may not be as common, but I shouldn't say as common. It might not be as often for the streamers when they get, used to doing this, but it's a very different capacity. And I know, Wyn, you might disagree, because I know you being kind of one of those mid-tier streamers. And I'll say mid-tier because you're not yet at the partner, but you're also not small. So kind of the mid-tier, you deal with a lot of the anxiety stuff, but you've also mentioned dealing with isolation. So can you define what how you see isolation as a streamer?
Yep, absolutely. Isolation. Oh man, isolation in the content creation space is so fucking crazy. Sorry, I didn't even, man. Wow, yeah, there's that for you. Hold on, beep. Yeah, just edit that back. Man, isolation as a streamer is man, is that a thing? Like look at what's happened in the last little bit. Look at Wreckful, so help us God, man. Like that dude. Rest in peace, Wreckful. Jesus. Wreckful is definitely someone who we can all learn a lot from. And then the fallout that happened after that, and the supportive things that people said, and the really nasty things that some people said. My God, some people really need to give their head a shake.
Yep.
But like, for the just to put like a real, like, cram it down into like some Cole's Notes kind of thing. Wreckful was a very, very, very prolific, very large streamer. He was one of the people who was within the 1% that absolutely, this was his full-time job, this is what he did, like, all that kind of jazz. He had thousands upon thousands upon thousands of followers, and plenty of subscribers and sponsors and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, the guy got to play games, you know, for a living. Like, you know, you ask anybody in their late teens and early 20s, what, you know, if money was not an issue, what would they do for a career? And not all of them, but a good majority of them are going to say, I just want to play video games.
Yeah. That was always my
on
dream.
the internet. Yeah, hell yeah. What? I'm 37. It's my dream. Like,
Yep.
come on, let's be realistic here. But you know, this guy, as far as the general textbook definition of have you made it, this guy was it. You know, like
Yep.
he had made it. He was living, air quotes, the dream. Unfortunately, he had other underlying mental health issues. Not here to talk about that. I am not a doctor. I am not here to diagnose anything. But he had some underlying mental health issues, and regrettably his demons got him, honestly, and he felt like he was in such a bad spot within his own life and within his own skin that he just couldn't handle whatever it was that was going on anymore. And he felt the need to take that final step and unfortunately take his own life. And that it's heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking. But isolation is such a huge part of that, because as a streamer who's going off, and like a lot of the really big, like the 1%ers, if that's what we want to call them, the guys who are financially sustainable based on their streaming income only, or streaming plus sponsorships plus blah 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 blah, right? Like, obviously streaming is a multi-income avenue profession. Like, if you think you're going to make it on Twitch subs alone, it's going to be tough. Like, you also need the bits and the ad revenue and the blah 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 blah, right? But like, these guys who are the 1%ers, so many of them are streaming 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. As an example, one of the bigger streamers that I actually follow quite frequently, because I think he's quite funny and interesting to watch a lot of the time. His username is Giant Waffle. He's just a funny dude. But he, in the month of, what was it, November, I think it was November, because it happened around American Thanksgiving. He did 30 streams in a month, so like a stream every day, and he holds the record, the North American record, for most hours streamed in 1 month, because he did a minimum of 19 hours live every day in the month of November.
Wow.
Like, that's not healthy for starters. Now, of course, I mean, he did it in the best way possible. He consulted with his doctor before he did it. He had all of these systems in place. He kind of had his house set up like, if you've ever seen the Truman Show, he kind of had his house set up like it looked like the Truman Show kind of thing. But I mean, like, that gentleman was live on air 19 hours a day or more for 30 hours. Or sorry, for 30 days. Sorry. And like, now, of course, he did have a couple of his streamer friends come over and visit him and do some cooking or some socializing, like face-to-face socializing, that was then recorded via Truman Show cameras and stuff like that. But I mean, there are lots of guys like Disguised Toast, for example, who is now currently over on Facebook Gaming, I think it is. I don't remember where he went to. He signed a contract with one of them. Like, they talk about all the time where if I take a day off of streaming, basically I'm taking a $2,000 to $3,000 US revenue hit for taking one day off. So they stream 365 days a year.
Wow.
You want to talk about isolation? How do you build a relationship outside of that? Like, I mean, you're going to build all the relationships online, and that's wicked. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love the relationships that I'm building online. Like the chance, like Mr. Orange, Mrs. Orange, Stacy, the winner's circle, we're all building these relationships right now. But when the camera goes off, it's not like I can just walk downstairs or hop in my truck and go drive 20 minutes and knock on your door, right? There's a little more distance there. And that can be tough.
Yep.
You know, where it's such a contrast where you are on where you're live and you know you're I always call myself a growing streamer. I will never refer to myself as a small streamer. I will never refer to myself as a large streamer. I am a growing streamer because that's what I intend on doing. I intend on growing and growing and growing and growing. And even when I get to the point where people call you, oh, you're such a big streamer, I'm a growing streamer because I ain't done yet, you know? But like, you know, you develop all of these relationships with these folks and you get these relationships online, but as soon as you're like, you can't be online forever. You can't run 24 hours a day online. So as soon as that camera goes off, it's like an elastic band almost. Like you're pulling yourself back. Oh, check out all this interaction I'm having. I'm like, you know, I'm having interaction all the way over here. But when the camera goes off, the elastic band gets let go and you get shot way the hell over there. And the sense of isolation and aloneness and depression and anxiety and all that kind of stuff that just like washes over you like a tsunami. And you're like, shit.
Yep.
This sucks. You know, and it's tough sometimes, and you're fighting demons all the time.
So
Absolutely. I think it's a great statement about how you get so charged up, and then I love the example. You snap it back, and then what? Right? I wonder if anyone watching, or listening in the chat, anybody in the chat wants to chime in on that. That has me incredibly intrigued. If anyone else experiences that, and how do you know, if you do experience that, how do you handle it? What do you do to manage it, if anything? Or are you looking for an answer? And what could I do? Maybe we could all together help.
Yeah, absolutely. Just quickly, one other thing is like when you're talking about isolation and that sort of stuff. I mean, obviously one of the facets of growing a content creation channel or growing any sort of like what a lot of people refer to as influencer kind of thing is that you're constantly interacting with people on various social medias and all that kind of jazz. So like, I mean, obviously you have a Discord server, Mr. Orange. I have a Discord server. Just about anybody and their dog, whether it's content related or not, has a Discord server nowadays. And it's like again, it almost seems counterintuitive, but there's a certain amount of isolation that comes when you're constantly getting flooded with messages from various people as well. And like you're constantly dealing with people who are, hey, what about this? Hey, you know, can you help me with that? Hey, I just wanted to ask you this. Hey, that kind of stuff. And that's wicked. And like, it's flattering that you are constantly wanting to reach out and chat and that sort of stuff. And it feels real good. But at the same time, there's that sort of that critical mass where it stops feeling good and just starts feeling overwhelming. Yeah. And then, you know, it's also a reminder of just how isolated you are, because you're sitting here and your phone's going off and you're like, oh, okay, good. My phone's going off. That's probably, you know, my childhood friend texting me or whatever, you know, like some real life friend of mine or something like that trying to get a hold of me. And then you pull out your phone and you check it and you're like, oh, it's just another Discord message from someone that like, it's not to say that I don't care about those people, because I absolutely do. Don't get that twisted. But like, there's again, like it was mentioned in chat by, sorry, I'm going to butcher your name, Zandolza. Zandolza mentioned it in the chat that physical human contact cannot be understated. COVID has brought that to the forefront. COVID has done that in itself, where we now all have to isolate and stay 6 feet apart from one another and wear masks and put up barriers. And I'm similar to Stacy, where like I'm a hugger. Like I get in trouble for it from time to time, where like I'll meet someone and I'll be like, hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And they'll go to shake my hand. I'm like, no, I'll bring it in for the real thing. Like, let's go,
Stacy's the
Like,
same way.
Yeah. Like, come on, come get some here. Like we ain't doing this, and it's stuff like that. And of course, man, COVID has really butchered that. On top of everything else.
Hug thief.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's hard as somebody who, would, as a streamer, if you already are dealing with isolation issues, and then all of a sudden COVID comes along and says, hey, there's, why even bother going outside? In my household, we barely go out.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have 3 small children. There's zero reason for me to be going outside right now. And if I do, we take specific precautions. So even just being inside, my work, my 9-to-5 job, just announced that we're working from home 100% of the time. Like we're completely remote now, which adds even more to that isolation. So where there's no reason for me to go outside now, except for maybe go to a grocery store or something like that. The anxiety and the depression and those sorts of things really start to build up. Even outside of COVID, just being in that situation where, as you're a big time streamer, Soda Poppin', every time I come on Twitch, I always see him streaming. And there's a few other people that I'm always seeing streaming. And there's a certain point where if you like, I feel like your schedule is perfect for you, and you stream 6-7 hours a day. So like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I started about 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, and I usually finish around 6:30 Eastern time. Saturday, Sunday are a little bit shorter, but we have I also throw some like value plus content in there that is done outside of the Twitch space. So it's kind of done, we'll get like some viewer games going on, or like a movie night going on or something. And I mean, Sunday is the day that I record my board game related podcast. So yeah. And one of the things with that is if you were to add more time, let's say you all of a sudden said, hey, you know what? I want to grow my stream. So I'm going to now, and this is a trap that I think a lot of people get into, is they feel like, all right, well, I have this schedule and now I want to grow my stream. And now, I need to stream more, and I need to now stream 9 hours a day, 7 days a week. You are very quickly, one, you're going to get burned out very quickly. And 2, you're not going to grow your stream. The only way you're going to be able to do that is by expanding your horizons, expanding what you're doing.
Bingo. That's huge. That's huge.
Absolutely, it is.
It is so much more important to do 3-hour really high quality streams than to do 7-9-hour garbage streams.
Yep.
And instead instead of doing that, like what I do on Mondays and Tuesdays, for example, is obviously I'm here with you, right? And I'm out watching other streamers and networking with other people, and I am editing content for YouTube, which is something that you and I even talked about, right? Is we had a conversation, and it was you had told me, well, I don't want to start putting stuff up on YouTube until it's like of a certain caliber and it's a certain way that I want it, and blah blah blah. And like at the end of the day, it's like, man, it's better to have anything up there, because you might get a click through, you might get that 2.5% we were talking about. But if you have nothing up there, you have 0% click through.
Start somewhere.
0.
And that to me, it's a very hard thing to do.
Absolutely.
And again, I think that's where the anxiety comes in of saying, I'm this perfectionist. I want to make sure that at least I put a decent product out there, because the quality and the expectation of quality is so high now compared to what it was 10 years ago. When YouTube, I mean, even on regular streams, back when, when even you started streaming, and when, Ninja and all the other big time streamers that have, Tim the Tatman, all of them, when they started streaming, the expectation of quality was very low, because it was something brand new. Now all of a sudden that expectation is, well, you have to have a DSLR in order to, have a really good high quality stream, or, this type of webcam, the C922 or something like that's the expectation. But in reality, that's not it. Like, people are going to come there and they're going to stay because of you. And one of the reasons that I haven't started, adding stuff onto YouTube yet, and I was trying to, kind of force myself into pushing that aspect, promoting it on my channel, doing all these different things. And I really got into a battle with my anxiety of saying, that balance between having something up there just to have it up there and trying to meet my own expectations. And then I'm like, all right, well, let's go ahead and figure out what I need to do and what I want to do. And I think that's kind of where the podcast stuff came in too, where it's easier for me to at least get myself into that realm of doing additional type of content, and maybe something will come out of that, just like this came out of streaming.
Absolutely. Well, look at it this way, my man. Like you like, we're talking about, having your name get out there and all that kind of stuff, and getting your brand out there. I mean, just by putting this up on Anchor, somebody goes up on Anchor and catches this podcast and listens to it and is like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe I'll go back and I'll check out the YouTube. So now they've seen your name twice, and then, okay, well, now I'm going to go check out Twitch. So now they've seen your name 3 times, and and it just it's one of those self-perpetuating things. The more places, like lots of people think, oh, less is more. I mean, that's true to an extent, but you still need to get yourself out there, and you still need to be out there in as many different facets as you possibly can. And because, again, you need to have people talking about you, right? There's so many people who say, oh, well, what do you do, even people talking to some of their friends or whatever and saying, oh, hey, well, what are you up to right now? It's like, oh, I'm just watching Agent Orange.
Yeah.
Oh, what's an Agent Orange? Like, I don't know what that is. Oh, he's this guy who plays Apex. He has a podcast, blah, 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 blah. Hey, you should check him out sometime. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I will.
Yeah.
Boom. Next guy in, or next girl in, next person in, I should say.
Exactly. It's typical word of mouth. And a lot of times for somebody who has a presence on YouTube, a lot of times you start to, once they get a video that, kind of starts getting people interested in their content, their stream blows up. Assuming they're promoting it, their stream blows up.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the people, because there's a lot of people, Nutty, Harris Heller, a few others who do streaming as kind of their thing, and promoting good streaming and standards and those sorts of things. The majority of them will basically tell you, and even their chat will tell you, hey, where'd you find them? I found them on YouTube.
Yep.
Because Twitch's search algorithm is horrible. You're not going to find people. Again, I never would have found you had it not been for the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to find you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you had, a bunch of YouTube content, I'd be able, I may, if it's something I was interested in, I'd be like, oh, cool. Let me do this. Let me watch this. Okay, this person streams. Awesome. I'm going to go follow them.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Now, I mean, just for clarity's sake, for anybody who's watching this back possibly later, like the incident that we're talking about was there's a gentleman or lady or person, whatever, who took my persona and tried to replicate it, sort of like if you go on to Twitter or any sort of social media and you look up any sort of celebrity, you'll see about 500 accounts for the same celebrity, but only one of them is actually the celebrity. So I had this sort of thing happen with myself, which is flattering, I guess, question mark. But this gentleman or lady or whomever went around and started spreading some very disturbing, unacceptable content and propaganda into various places. Again, doing it under my name, under my guise. So I had lots of people who came in, and I would say probably 80 to 85% of the people who came in were people similar to Mr. AyegentOrange here, who came in and said, look, nobody is going to be so pants on head dumb that they're going to come in here under their own name and spread this sort of vitriol. So maybe I'm going to come in, wait 2 minutes, try and see what is what, try and get a feel for this person who's under this name, and then I will make my comment or whatever. About 15 to 20% of people, on the other hand, came with the pitchforks first, questions second mentality, which, I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. I'm happy to have conversations with the 80% and the people who want to come out like fist swinging and just like, you know, guns first kind of thing or whatever, right? Like aggression first, logic second. Those people, like, you know, I don't have time for those, man. There's you know, those are the people that I'm not so concerned about not appealing to in the collective creation space.
Yep.
So they're just, yeah, because I know it's come up a couple times now, so I figure it should at least get touched on that, like, hey, you know what, this is kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it was an unfortunate situation, but again, I think it was one of those learning experiences, or even me, for somebody who's completely on the outside, you know, even me being able to learn from what you had to go through. So
sure, just watching a friend go through that too, right?
Yeah.
Watching somebody you follow experience that. I mean, it could happen to anyone, right?
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
Honestly, I think I came in probably about halfway through. Everything was happening. Yeah, and I was. It hurt me just seeing somebody like you, who's probably at least in my opinion, probably one of the most down to earth type of people.
Thank you.
And having you have to go through something like that, and I think, I mean, even Reckful was very open about the trolls.
Man,
he was very open about his depression, everything he was going through.
Yep.
And it's those type of people that ruin it and send some people who don't have the strong mind down a really bad path.
In like, with regards to the Reckful thing, after that poor man got, like, after that poor man, like actually, like I said, he got to a point, for whatever reason, whether it was internal, whether it was an external force, whatever. This is not for me to pass judgment on. But like, after this man like got to the point where he was after this man got to the point where he like actually got to the point where he took his own life to have some terrible human being like put up on you know, as a response to like the announcement that went out on Twitter to say, hey, you know what, like, we're sad to announce the passing, blah 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 blah. And this guy comes out here, and I remember seeing it, and like my blood boiled when I saw it, because he was just like what an absolute waste. You know, this guy had everything anyone could have ever wanted. Like, this is, you know, like people would give up just about anything to be him, and blah blah blah. It's like, man, you don't know him. Yep. You don't know what he is going through. You don't know what he went through. You don't, you know, like, and here's something that is baffling, at least to me. and I was, it's one of those, like, you're in the shower doing your thing or whatever, right? And you're like, wait a second, there, like, this is this shower thought moment, right? Like, it's baffling to me to think, and I these people, I love these people, that there are people out there in the world who walk around day to day that aren't necessarily affected by anxiety or depression or something like that. Could you imagine what it's like to actually get up first thing in the morning, wash your hands, brush your teeth, do your morning routine, just get up and go about your work without having, like, these, like, anxiety riddled thoughts in your head? Do you know how much more, you know, how awesome that would be? Like, to not be here, to not be, like, hit with imposter syndrome when you go live on Twitch at some point, and you're like, you know, you don't have that thought creep into the back of your head of, like, man, are people actually going to enjoy this, or are they going to hate it? Is this worth doing? Is somebody
Yep.
not out there doing it better than me? Blah blah blah. Holy cow, man. Like, where can I get that pill? Like, give it to me. I'll take it right now. I'll
Yep.
buy your whole stock.
I'll share some of my excitement with you.
Please, yes. Like, you know, it's crazy, Stacy, because, like I said, when I get excited about something, or when it's something that I'm truly confident with, it's the best thing ever. But it's still not, it's never 100%. Like, we can get, you know, upwards like 98, maybe even 99 on, like, a really good day. There's always that 1% doubt, you know, that 1% anxiety, that 1%, like, what if, that 1% imposter syndrome. And to think, like, that there are people out there that just can just hit that 100%. Oh my God, what a feeling. What a feeling that would be.
Yeah. I think it's healthy to have some level of nervousness, right? Or again,
Sure.
like I said earlier, you know, excitement. Yeah, there's nervousness in there, but it's excitement, right? I joked last week and or last month, I should say, in this month, you know, I fluffed my hair around my headphones, right? And that was
Sure.
how, for me, I was a little anxious, and I'm like, but if I fluff my hair around my headphones, that'll help it, right? And it sounds so trivial and silly, but really it worked. I was like, cool. Now I have like big rock star hair. It's flatter now, but it was bigger earlier.
Sure.
But I
Sure.
mean, we all do and find different ways to combat that person in our head. And one of the most important things to remember is that person in your head is you,
Yeah.
right? So either become friends with them or be their mortal enemy, right? Becoming friends is way easier, right? And so, like, for me, I have, I don't know, it's always a field day in my head. I joke, it's like a clown car constantly driving around in my head with music, clown music playing.
Of
And
course.
it's gotta be. Um, but no, I mean, because there's always something, some new adventure, right? And I think, like you're saying, you know, to hit that 100%, I don't even know what that's like, right? Either, because there is that little bit where I'm like, what if, you know?
Yeah.
I think that can be healthy for us too if we find a way, right, to help it not debilitate us, but maybe fuel us, right? And that's true in any walk of life, whether you're streaming or you're working, or this whole COVID thing. I mean, we're all experiencing a new level of normal, whatever that looks like to us, each of us independently, right? For a while they were saying, "Oh, we're all going through this together." Yes and no.
Are we in the
We're
same
all
house? No, we're really not.
Yeah, right. We're experiencing the same headline,
Yep.
but the content underneath that headline way different
Yep.
for every
Oh yeah.
single, right?
Yep.
I teach a class to therapists who are working with people um, dealing with COVID, and one of the most unique things we discussed was how we as therapists are experiencing what those we're working with are experiencing too. You don't get that every day. You don't get that every day, and actively experiencing it, right? And I think that's the one cool thing that we can all say is there's some new level of norm for every single one of us.
Yep.
And it provoke anxiety. It is pushing. I mean, we were all isolated, right? And how we dealt with that. You know, I spent a lot of time in my backyard hanging out with the critters.
Mhm.
But if I didn't have them and I maybe lived in more of a city type setting, I don't know that I would have had the same experience, that it would have been as peaceful and nice, because I enjoy my backyard, right? Um, I don't know that it would have been the same. So I think it's important, um, just to recognize how we're all being pushed in a new direction, and to really just band together and love each other.
Yeah, 100%.
I,
I'm reading.
No,
Uh,
you're all good.
So, let's see. Um, One thing during our prep when you mentioned was your kind of concern for people when they, or you're concerned for yourself when it comes to people coming into your chat and telling you why you're playing a new game or something like that. Because you're one of those people that plays a lot of just different variety of games. You have no fear to jump into a game that could potentially suck for you.
Oh,
But you,
absolutely.
yeah, but when you get those people, like for instance, not too long ago, what was it, Last of Us, I think, where you kept saying, "Do not give spoilers. Don't tell me how to play." How does it affect you when somebody comes into your stream and either gives spoilers or starts a backseat game?
I mean, it's frustrating. It's like instantly frustrating. And that's why I always try and let people know, if I'm doing it, like I just put a blind tag on it, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
doing it blind. I don't know anything about this game. Again, if you're expecting to come in here and watch like professional, gamer kind of gameplay, like I tell people
Not
all the
it.
time, like you're in the wrong spot. Like if this is what you're here for, this ain't what you're getting. Like, I'm like, I am not that person. I enjoy, like, a lot of the games that I do choose to do on my own streams are single player story driven content, something with a narrative that I can then build a dialogue off of. I like to make lots of really bad jokes, bad jokes, dad jokes, lewd jokes, um jokes that you absolutely could not repeat to your grandmother, like that's, like dry cynical, like humor, that sort of stuff, like that's my style of humor. So a lot of times, like, yeah, like with stuff like that, I just tell people, I say, hey, you know what, like I don't care if you want to give me like tips and tricks, be vague about it. If I am really looking for someone to kind of say, okay, first you go here, go 2 miles down the road, then hang a left, and then go half a mile and hang a right, that sort of stuff. Like if that's what I'm looking for, I will express that.
Mhm.
How do I deal with it is, I tell my mods to be jerks, really. We actually had, like, I have a really good team of moderators who I have kind of hand selected to assist me, and I tell them, and I've told my moderators this, and I honestly hope that other people who are streaming have meetings with their moderators and they tell them this exact thing right here. So ears on, guys, here we go. Tell your mods that to just act. Like if a situation arises and something needs to be done, and they're like, I feel, I one of the worst situations that you can find yourself in is a situation arises and something needs to happen and your mod freezes, or somebody freezes and doesn't know how to respond to it and just goes like, oh, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? Just I told them this, and I told them this over the weekend. I said, just act. I said, in front of everybody on camera, I will back you up 100% no matter what. If I truly feel that what you've done is incorrect, or if I would like to see a different action taken, we will talk about it in private after the fact.
Yep.
But in front of everybody, I will support you because you are my mod team and you are here supporting me. And therefore, I will be here supporting you. because that's the relationship that we have, and that's the relationship that we need to have, at least in front of everybody. If something needs to get addressed or changed or something like that, again, it can be done in private between the two of us.
Yep. It's better to have the situation taken care of immediately than all of a sudden somebody comes in and it just progressively gets worse and worse and nobody does anything. And now you're stressing out. You're building that extra anxiety that's completely unneeded. And your mod team, you look at them and say, why did I give you a moderator position if you're not going to utilize it properly? You know, and
that is 100% true.
And it's not even, I mean, you have amazing mods. I have an amazing mod. I keep myself with one mod. But even for something like tonight, the last thing I wanted to worry about was a situation arising. So I even reached out to Virus and I said, hey, if something happens, can we add you as a mod? Because I've seen the work that he's done with you and how quick he is.
Good.
Yeah, he's good.
He is damn good.
Yeah. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, if something arises, can you take on this role? Because I trust you enough to be able to just do what needs to be done and completely take it out on my hands. That way I can now have two moderators that I 100% trust, and it's less stress on me. And if something does happen, to your point, if something does happen that I don't like, or somebody comes and complains or causes more of an issue, we'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
I would much rather deal with that type of stuff in private than have to deal with it during a stream. And now it causes more problems, lost viewership, people, just it causing problems, which is dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, like I said, anybody, like, as you grow, as you get bigger, as you start getting more moderators and that sort of stuff, like I said, tell them to be cutthroat, tell them to be assholes. And so what I have is I've made, I think it's about a 4 or 6 page document. I wrote it up in Word. It's called Wyn's Moderation Guide, and I have it pinned in the officer channel. And whenever I get like a new mod or anything like that, I say, there's a document in the Discord. It's pinned in the channel. I would like you to download it. I would like you to read it. I would like you to ask questions and ask for clarification if there's anything you want. I don't mind sharing it with other people. If anybody's interested in wants a copy of it, you could edit it and change it to your own liking if you want. Just ask me and I would be more than happy to send it out to you. But one thing that it says right at the very top of that thing is that it's a living document, and that it is going to be constantly changing, and that it is going to be constantly upgrading, because the world of content creation is constantly changing. And as a content creator, and in order to limit the anxiety of content creation, especially, and the craziness that comes from content creation, is you need to be able to adapt and grow, and you need to, bend like water kind of thing, right? And be able to evolve and change as things change.
Vash actually had a good question. It was mostly answered in chat, but I think it's something that we can address here too, is people who have higher follow counts but average a 5 to 10 viewer. So there's two different pieces to that, just to answer your question, Vash. So it could be, like they mentioned in chat, a follow for follow thing. But it could also be where you have, it goes back to our conversation about percentages. You're not going to get, just because you have 3,000 followers doesn't mean that you're going to get, 100 people in your channel. I mean, look at the top streamers. They have, they could have 4 or 5 million people following their channel, but they could average 300-400 people per stream. Because, as somebody who also views streams and doesn't just stream my own content, I also watch other people. I can't be in everybody's channel. So I follow, people who I enjoy. And I'm one of those, I guess I could say one of those few people who will only follow people that I enjoy, and I will remove people that I don't enjoy. Some people just follow people and just never go back to their channel. It happens. So it could be one of those two situations.
One more situation that is actually fairly common but kind of gets overlooked is people who start up a channel and get a bit of a following and then have to take a break for whatever reason. Like if you take a break, I mean you lose so much traction if you're
progress,
gone for a month or 2 months, or let's say that you end up having to go to school or college or something in another state or another country, and you don't have the opportunity to stream as much as you could for whatever reason. A lot of people will still keep you on their follower list because they do like you and they do want you to come back to streaming, but at the same time they will go and start following someone else and hanging out in other people's channels.
Yep, exactly. So we are at time. So do either of you have any final thoughts, Stacy? If you do,
I
if
need to learn emoticons.
you what?
I need to learn how to use these emoticons.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
I put the heart in it. Paragraph.
Do you have any final thoughts or anything on the topics for tonight, or anything that we've talked about?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Assuming your name's still Stacy.
See, this is what happens when you allow me to see the chat. I get like,
That's true.
right? Like, which one? I get excited. So no, my final thoughts truly, if anyone's struggling with, isolation, because, again, and when I want to stress what an important point you made, when it comes to mental health, whether it's depression that someone's dealing with, if they're using, gaming for stress management, depression, anxiety, whatever it might be, just some type of escape. You made that point about when the lights go out, right? When the game turns off, right? Snap it back. That was such a powerful point. And if anyone is struggling with anything, and after the lights go out, right, and the game is off, please reach out to somebody for help, and don't be embarrassed by it. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I just need to talk.
Yep.
Right? Go online. We offered 2 tools, Psychology Today, or Psychology Today, and goodtherapy.org. Both of those, again, to look for help if you need it. If you've had really, really bad luck with therapy and you just don't know what you want to do, get a hold of Randy. Randy will get you in touch with me. I'll try and help you find someone, again, therapist, but not your therapist. But yeah, if you need help with something, ask for help. Just reach out to somebody, anybody. Yeah, this stuff can be rough, so don't be afraid. Easier said than done, too.
Yeah, and I'm always happy if anybody does have any questions, need somebody to talk to. I'm always happy to listen, give my thoughts on whatever it is, or just listen. So feel free to reach out to me if you have questions as well. Wyn, any final thoughts from you?
Don't do that.
Somebody's reaching out.
Yeah, somebody's reaching out right now, guys. Sorry, I gotta go. No, honestly, I do agree with exactly what both of you have just said. Yeah, when the lights go out and when things do kind of snap back, it can be tough. Make sure you have that support. If you notice somebody that is maybe acting a little bit differently or appears to be having a hard time, especially right now during COVID and that sort of stuff, it does not take much, and I guarantee you, even if it's just like you misread something or something like that, they would appreciate hey, you okay? Is there anything going on, that kind of stuff. I saw a picture again. It was like a week and a half ago, was the 3rd anniversary of when Chester from Linkin Park took his own life. 3 years ago, he took his own life. Heartbreaking. Again, that's a guy who got me through a lot of stuff in my teenage years, just listening to Linkin Park and that sort of stuff. to think again, he had a family, he had everything, right? He had the life. Robin Williams, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Took
yeah.
his own life, right? And it was funny because the caption on the picture that I saw of Chester, it said, "It's scary what a smile can hide." And you know, when I think back to Chester, when I think back to people like Robin Williams, it is terrifying to that some of the outwardly happiest people you've ever met, like you don't know what they're going through on the inside, and you don't know what they're trying to hide from you, because maybe they don't want you to feel what they're feeling. You know what I mean? It's a tough, mental health is a tough thing, right? The brain is easily the second most important muscle in the brain, second, in my opinion, second only to the heart. And it is by far like probably the most like awkwardly powerful, you know? And it's one of those situations where like you have all this power, and the power can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Let's work together, my friends. Let's reach out. Let's try and help each other and spread love and make sure that everyone's doing okay, and try to, especially right now, even though we have to be socially distant. Like I said, you can stay 6 feet apart and still send a text message. You can stay 6 feet apart and still make a phone call and just talk to someone and say, "Hey, you know, you doing okay? Like, I haven't chatted with you in a bit." You know, just find out what's up. Ask them how their favorite ball team's doing. Yankees are killing it, by the way.
Oh God. Oh, yeah, no, we can't do that. Sorry, Win. We're done.
Oh no, I'm
We're done.
out. I've been disconnected.
You've ruined it. Let's cut him off.
Yeah.
It's amazing what a single reach out can do for a person. One person reaching out and saying, you know, even if it's just, "I hope you're okay," or, "Hey, I'm here if you need to talk." Even when that person says, "No, you know, I'm good, thanks," you know, it could still make a big difference, because it shows that somebody out there cares, and somebody who's going through a lot may think that nobody cares, and that one person can
Absolutely.
completely save a life.
Absolutely. And I think when you made a really great point, and even to what you were talking about with the, the people that have it all, right? Check in on your strong friends too.
Yep.
Nobody is
Oh
ever
yeah.
100%, right? I walk around and I smile almost all day long, really, but trust me, there are moments I am not smiling too, right? And I'm grumpy and I'm fussy, and because it's real and we're all human. And I'm watching the comments here, and one of the best things you can do, if you don't feel comfortable asking someone for help, finding a friend that you can say, and even if it's anyone on here. I know Warrior's chiming in, and I know Warrior's great to talk to, Randy, myself, right? When um we've all put ourselves in this position because we care, right? And just saying, even introducing it as, "Hey, do you have a minute? I've got something on my mind." Because not everybody's willing or comfortable to say, "I need help." But just simply saying, "Do you got a minute? I've got something on my mind." Or for those that want to check in on somebody, "How you doing today?" And if they're like, "Oh, I'm fine." "No, really, how you doing?" Right?
Yeah.
Randy, I've done that to you.
Oh yeah.
"No,
All the
I'm great.
time.
I'm like, "Yeah, no, really, how you doing?"
Yeah.
Right? And ask open-ended questions. I'm going to sound like a broken record because you're going to hear me say this almost every single month. Ask open-ended questions. Those are one of the greatest gifts we could ever give to a friend or to a stranger. Open-ended question. Allow them time to answer something other than yes or no. Right?
That's
And just
that's that is everything. That is everything. Just in life. Like that's not dead ass specific to mental health. That's not dead specific to content creation. It is just that is just a life pro tip right there. The more open-ended questions you can ask, you'd be surprised at the conversations you find yourself getting into. And it's wicked. It is
It is.
wicked.
They can be life-changing.